So now that you guys have a fair bit of experience trying to model something, I'm sure you've run into some issues doing so, right? So either you couldn't click on the point that you wanted, or something wasn't working in the z-axis when you wanted it to be in a different axis. So let me just delete these real quick. I'll just make a new one. So our objective here, at least for me, what I want to do here is show you guys a little bit about navigating this cube when you have thickness. So allow me to just really quickly do an offset surface on this. Alright, so I've got a box with thickness. I am going to really quickly create a layer for my negative forms. Red. And I'll start by creating a box. Right, so I'm going to try to emulate what you guys had. I might get it wrong, but I don't have the dimensions in front of me. But first and foremost, let me real quickly point out here what's going on. It looks like I'm clicking on that edge, right? Remember, I turned on Object Snap. We learned about that on Wednesday. I've got my endpoint clicked on, and I go and I try to click on this corner, right? So I'm going to really quickly click on that, and I'm going to type in the values that I want. So I know that this one, I want to go, let's see, this is my X, so I'll go 4 feet to the right and 10 feet tall. I'm just guessing. I'm approximating to what you guys have in yours. So 4 feet to the right is +4, and 10 feet up is +10. And then I need to go down -7 feet. But where is it? Right, everything that we've been doing so far has been on the surface of this box. But because I created thickness in my walls and then I tried to anchor my box, something's going on. Graphically, I can't see it anymore. So when I go into display and back into wireframe, we can analyze what happened and begin to understand what went wrong. So if you look real closely at this corner, my red box anchored to the inside corner. So you can't see it on the outside because obviously it's fully enveloped on the inside. That's because when you have object snaps turned on, they will select anything that is within its range in the z-axis from where your cursor is or your crosshair is on the screen. So let me turn that off real quick and try it again. So if I line these things up perfectly, the front and back, actually let me do it this way. I'm going to drop a point on the top left corner, another one on the inside corner, and then down here, oh, look at that, got some graphic issues. That one and that one. So because this is flat, they're actually coplanar, but it doesn't matter because when I zoom out now, I can move my mouse around and it kind of looks like they're all in the same spot, sort of-ish. Recall what I was saying about the selection menu? The selection menu is going to take anything that's within the selectable vicinity, right? So the computer kind of says, wherever you click on screen, I'm going to take probably a pixel or two of extra space because I don't know exactly what you're trying to click to, and anything that lives in that area or that radius, I'm going to give you a little menu that you can select from and tell me which item here you want. So when I try to click there, it's going to give me a selection menu with all 4 of those points because it can't figure it out. It's too far away from the selection in scale, so I need to tell it, do I want this one, or that one? Or do I want to select the poly surface itself because that lives in the same 3-dimensional area as well. Is that making a little bit of sense to you now? So let me get rid of those. So this is what I do. I tend to switch a little bit in between wireframe and and shaded, if I'm knowledgeable enough and experienced enough in it now that when I'm working in shaded with a form that's this simple, it is kind of easy to figure it out. All you got to do is zoom in a little bit more. So if I do my box command and see, if I zoom in, you'll see that it's actually not selecting that corner, selecting an inside edge. And so I can be smart about it, turn it outward, and then hover over the corner I'm trying to select. So that's the key. The key is, for most selection procedures, I turn my model, I rotate it out so that here I know that there is absolutely no other geometry behind that point. So there's no possibility that it's selecting something else. That's not always possible though. Sometimes you have to select something with some geometry behind, and that's where 3D comes into play, or wireframe 3D comes into play. Because if I have, let me just make a few copies here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is my original box, and I have all that geometry happening behind it. If I turn it into this and I want to select the back corner of that box, I can't. So I can put it onto another layer. I'll call it box 1 or box A. Make it blue. And this is just conceptual. You guys don't need to do this right now. I'm just, speaking to you about it so that you understand what you can do. So I can change it to that layer. So to change an object to a separate layer, you select it, you right click on the layer, and you say change object layer. Don't worry, I'll introduce that one again a little bit more in the future. But when you have tons of geometry and they're all separated into separate layers, when I turn it on wireframe, it makes it really easy to see what it is I'm trying to select. So even though my back corners are stuck in the middle of all this other extraneous geometry, I can, you can zoom select to make it kind of rotate a little better onto it, but I can just kind of rove around in 3D and all of the other geometry just falls away if I need to have it on. So then if I want to put a box on the back side, I can click right there. Making sense?
Yes.
The other thing you can do,
I was just gonna ask if you can't just do like the X, Y coordinates and just put it in its place.
type it in.
Yeah.
You can. But remember how I just copied a whole bunch of boxes across? What if the box I was interested in was this one? I have no idea exactly where that is in 3D. So I don't know where the origin point is, nor do I know where the desired point is. Does that make sense? So typing it in is really difficult. That's why referential data input is really important. So the other thing you can do is if you're really controlled about your layering, you can just turn them off. So if I have negatives turned on and I don't want to work on the default boxes right now, I just turn them off. And that's these little light bulbs. I introduced that to you as well last week. So again, we're talking about document control here. So you don't need to just have one layer. You might wind up with 30 different layers in a file, turning them on and off. Okay, so what I want to do here is turn that off, select all of these. So that's, if you want to just take a peek up real quick, I have one box I want to keep and I want to get rid of the rest. So I have it on a layer, I turn that box off, I select all of the boxes, and I delete them, and then I can turn it back on. Okay, so generally speaking, be aware that you'll have to be a little bit creative about when and where you're turning these visibility options on and off, because that's going to open up other selection opportunities for you. And again, we're just working in endpoints right now. I'm going to quickly show you how to do modifications to a model that you've already cut without having to undo. And then we're going to move into learning about referential data input using the top, front, and right side views. So that one's going to be incredibly important for you guys moving forward. Are there any questions on this so far? Okay.